afternoon, everyone. I think I've seen all of you this morning at the session, so I don't think I need to introduce the IAC Literary Festival again, but it's been running today and tomorrow. We have 3 sessions all through the day in this room, Dodge Room, this beautiful room, and upstairs in the home room. So welcome to you all. If this is your first session, and please stay back. And if it's not, I hope you've been enjoying the rest of the sessions here. Here today we have the industry panel from page to premiere, adapting books to screen. Now, if you've ever caught yourselves thinking of a book and thinking of how it'll look up on the big screen on Netflix, then this is the right room for you. We're pulling back the curtain and what it takes to move to adapt to screen. What are your work options? What are the producers and executives looking for it? And most importantly, I think now in the day of AI also, is how do you protect your creative vision as your story makes way through the Hollywood development process. We're fortunate to have 2 powerhouse leaders here who are working in that space of having underrepresented voices, getting them a platform. So thank you to both of you. First, I want to introduce Priya Doraswamy, Oscar-nominated EP. We have to say that. And founder of the Lotus Lane Literary Agency. Priya, you've been supporting the festival all through, and it's wonderful to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
She's built her career championing voices that deserve a larger platform, and her advocacy for representation across both publishing and film and TV has been really, truly exemplary. Please give her a warm welcome. Joining her today is Reena. Reena Singh is an accomplished EP as well, with a remarkable career spanning Disney-branded television, ABC, 20th Century Fox, Macro Entertainment, and more recently her own company,
yes.
Augie and Flowers.
Thank you. Augie Loves Flowers production. Augie is my dog, my 1-year-old puppy. Yeah.
Reena has overseen major global franchises and award-winning stories and series, including the mysterious Benedict Society, any fans here, American-born Chinese, Percy Jackson, the newest generation of Doctor Who for fans, is the co-creator of Salon's membership. I don't know if...
Mentorship, yes.
Yes. So Salon does very important work, been a big fan, and I know Nick Rani.
Oh.
Her passion, again, for championing artists and shaping meaningful, culturally resonant storytelling has had such an impact on the industry. So thank you, Reena.
Thank you.
Wonderful to see you. Over to you.
Thank you. Hi.
Okay, my friend.
Okay. This is on? Or do I need to turn it on?
No, this is good.
Is it good? Okay. All right, so I'm supposed to kick this off, right?
This is very informal. Please chime in. The wonderful thing about going up against the big gun in the Davis Room, where we were originally booked, by the way, is that we get to have an intimate discussion, and hopefully you'll all get. I think you're all coming here with intent, right? This is a very specific conversation, so it's really important that you leave with as much of the information as that's as helpful to you as possible. So, since this is page to premiere, there was some big news in the literary world this past week, and specifically in the area of adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn it to you to talk about it since you're the book expert.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw this news, but there is this writer, her name is Rebecca Yarros, and she writes romantasy, which is the hot new genre in publishing. But she didn't start off writing romantasy, she started off writing just pure romance, and she had published a book called The Last Letter in 2017. And her press is called Entangled, which is actually a really interesting independent publisher. It was this woman she used to be a software engineer. She started in 2011. She started the press as a ebook first and ebook only, and then she later on, did a print run. But and her focus was romance, and so Rebecca was one of her writers, and she did not sell a lot of books. And then in 2023, they decided to open up this romantasy genre, and she wrote this series called the Empyrean series, and the first book is called The Fourth Wing. And thanks to the presence of Book Talk, it became a crazy bestseller. It sold 2 million copies because of the book talkers just talking up the book. And then since then, the second book has been done, and I think she's sold a global of like 12 million print copies, right? What a crazy, incredible success story. So of course, and then Amazon optioned the Empyrean series, and in typical fashion, and you know, I'm gonna have Reena talk about what producers do. A lot of the producers saw opportunity, so they said, well, what else you got? And romance is like a big genre right now because of the world we live in, and it's so dark and bleak, and everybody wants happy stories. So they found The Last Letter, and last week, or the week before, it got into a hot auction, major auction, and the auction price was $200,000, and the purchase price for that book was $2 million. With some crazy heavy back ends. And I'm gonna have Reena explain all those terms to you, and I'm happy to pitch in too. But this is unprecedented because especially in the last couple of years, you know, I have found as I'm trying to option off my writers' books, and I also represent screenplays, which is a similar process, everybody wants a free option. It's called a shopping agreement. That has become the industry norm because the industry has become completely risk averse. So, you know, on all front, this was kind of shocking, and all of the big players, like, you know, bidded for this book, and then Amazon and GM won the bid. So it is kind of a fascinating story for us as we're all in the industry, and I'm not sure how many of you write screenplays and books, and I'm, you know, interested in the process, but this was a deal to note. So I'm gonna hand it off to you to talk a little bit about, like, what do you think happened there?
Oh, well, a few things. One is we just can't underestimate book talk and social media. I think that really did catapult her into a new space, you know. Look, The Last Letter is her first book. It's a great book. It's not like she all of a sudden became, I mean, I do think you get better, your craft gets better as you practice it more, but that's a terrific novel. I think the fact that Book Talk started talking about her, she had this romantasy, which is a genre that's really hitting right now and people are interested, and Book Talk galvanizes around that genre as well. And then they re-released The Last Letter as a result, and so that sort of came back into the ether. All of those things, you know, just sort of came together to give her the recognition and the viewership that made studios and producers more willing to take a risk on this author. And I hate using the word risk, but it is something that, you know, people are looking at the return on investment, and development dollars are getting scarcer and scarcer. Most options, just to put, okay, so you said shopping agreement. Yes, that is becoming more and more the industry standard. The option prices have dropped if you do get an option. Like the standard is $5,000 to $10,000 to option your book. That's not a whole lot, you know, and then it's for purchase $50,000 to $100,000. So that 200 over 2 million, huge deal. But I think the things that went into it, you know, the recognition, the viewership, and then hitting the right genre, and a book that had a really nice high concept to it as well.
So when you were at Disney and other production houses, did you love getting books?
I love books. I think adapting from books is terrific. It is. There are some pitfalls to it, but I do think finding books that have, especially authors that have, you know, a fandom is great, because you have you're counting on, like Percy Jackson. We knew that, oh my gosh, it spans generations now. And I mean, I remember going, I was at was it a wedding or engagement party? I don't know, for one of my nieces a few years ago. And my cousin Ritu has 2 daughters that are in college, and so they're very cool. And they're not very impressed by me, their old auntie. And I'm sitting at the table and like, oh, I live in LA, and what do you do working today? Whatever. And well, what are you working on that would be of interest? And I'm, Percy Jackson. And they lit up and wanted to know everything about Percy. I mean, all of a sudden I became cool, right? And so to this 19 and 21-year-old. So, I mean, that has a huge following. So, I mean, we knew that, that would work. But not everything is Percy Jackson. But I do love the fact that you can have a built-in audience from books. I do love the fact that books, when you find the right property, have that high concept, and by that I mean like surprising twist. Mm-hmm. In them, and like usually if they're in a genre that, and by some of the hot genres right now are the tried and true ones, romance, and then the subgenre romantasy, crime, specifically thriller, and science fiction, and grounded sci-fi even more so because those budgets are a little bit more realistic on the TV side. The film side will still pick, do those high concept sci-fi movies as well, but I love books. I've always been a big reader, and I do just love the idea of books. And then when you get a book, that story is told. It's such a great sense of security for a writer that's coming in to adapt, because the story has been broken. There is a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's characters that you can develop off of and grow beyond. So it's a great template to start from. So for adaptation purposes, as a TV and film executive, I love it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So of course, Percy Jackson.
That's that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about maybe 2 or 3 books that you really had to fight for, and which ended up with a success story.
Well, yeah, and still fighting for.
Yeah.
I'll just 2 examples really quickly. Crossover, Kwame Alexander's book. Despite its viewership and fan affinity for the book, was a difficult one to get made, and then it ended up winning a Kids Emmy, so there you go. American Born Chinese, Gene Wang's graphic novel, was something that was a fight, but things that I felt should be so obvious, but a real fight. And then Percy Jackson, it's like all they want is Percy Jackson. But these are 2 books that may not have those numbers, but had just as much of a passionate readership, and were generations of, Yeah.
What do you face as an executive? Like so let's say you get a diverse book, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to use the word diverse because there's so much under diversity. Just like walk us through it with a really honest sort of look at what happened, because from an agent's perspective, and my mainstay is diversity, mm-hmm. and I know how hard it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, every book is a battle, and sometimes it takes me 3 years to sell a book. No kidding. So I want to know what that conversation is.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that it's so hard, that it's difficult for you too.
It's hideous.
I would think it would be easier. The thing that I face a lot is, even if I find a book, the words that are used are, it's too narrow in scope, there's sort of code words that I hear that I'm like, okay, you're not going to say this about, books by and about, what is considered mainstream audience. And then, the other thing that I hear a lot is, well, who's going to play these roles? I mean, we have a very, very robust bench of great actors and actresses, right? So there's no shortage in this world of, of people that can play these roles. And so it does take a little bit of education, but this is definitely a very metric-driven industry now, with the tech industry coming into entertainment. We always had research and data informing decisions in the television and film industry, but it has become so analytical now that I think we've lost that creative freedom as executives to make gut decisions, based on our creative experiences and instinct, and some of the things that have been made have been from that.
Oh my gosh, it drives me insane, this whole metrics nonsense, because I feel like, apologies to all of you MBA people here, but like, I'm not saying that MBA people are not creative, but like, most of them are not. And they don't have the creative instinct, and so it's all about the numbers game. We see it, in publishing, it's been around for a long time. That horrible Nielsen's Scan book, I just hate it with a passion. But that's data, and that's what drives publishers to be like, oh, there's only 3,000 books sold of this, but like, come on, take a chance on the next book, right?
I wish that the publishing industry would do a better job of informing entertainment executives of what those numbers really mean, because not everything can be, a Harry Potter. It just can't, So you see those numbers, and then you see, oh, this book sold 10 million copies, and most entertainment executives will just shrug their shoulders and go, oh, that's not enough of a reason to put this into development.
Truth be told, if someone sells 2,500 copies to like 5,000, that's actually pretty good. I mean, it's really that small, but it's also that big. I want to pivot to talking about two of our projects. So Reena and I are working on a couple of projects together. One is, and you guys might be familiar with the book, it's called The Bangalore Detectives Club. The writer was here last year from Bangalore. It is a phenomenal series. It's a historical crime series set in 1920s Bangalore. The New York Times absolutely loves the series, and they're big fans. And so somehow, Reena and I didn't know each other at that point, but somehow the book got to Reena, and I just want her to tell her side of the story about the Bangalore Detectives Club.
Well, a wonderful producer called me just as I started my job at Macro Entertainment, which was a BIPOC studio, and I had buying power, real buying power, and it's this woman named Priya Doraswamy, who's a terrific producer, calls me, had a lovely conversation. We'd been introduced through a mutual producer friend, and she started pitching me, a bunch of stuff, and it was all great, but nothing that really caught my fancy. And then she said, well, this book, Bangalore Detective Club. And I had read it during the pandemic. On my own, just read it, fallen in love with it. And I remember reading it and saying, this would be a great series, but no one's going to make it. I was just defeated, but I defeated myself, It was period, it's South Asian, they're going to say it's too narrow. I was just a little tired of fighting, the battles, and it was a pandemic, so it was all of that combined. So now it comes to me fresh, and then we met through that, and I said yes, and it was the first thing I optioned during a time where they said don't option anything, period, and that was the first thing I bought, and I still believe in it and believe it has all of the ingredients of a great series. The period part of it does not bother me in the very least. Some of the best programming that's come out in the last 5 years have been period shows, and they keep coming out. Some of them are not even that good, but they come out and I watch them, So, I'm thinking about what's on right now, or what was recently on. I know Shogun, Gilded Age, Bridgerton, so many great things, and I think the Bangalore Detective Club, I think the period just gives it that elevation. It is a crime engine, it's a tried and true procedural, and serialized genre that I think people are going to connect with, and the characters are, that's really where it starts with. I mean, the lead is terrific, and so I really believe in that one. And I also think production-wise, there's a way to make this in India where it can have, you put all your production value on the screen, it's not going to cost $100 million to make this series. If a financier came in and was smart, they could shoot the entire season and have something really special to take out to market that is very viable and commercial. And
can I also add original? Because
yes.
How many re-adaptations of Jane Austen have we seen? I mean, seriously. and we're all big Jane Austen fans, but there has to be original content, right? Like, come on, guys, right?
Well, that's what I love about book authors. You guys come up with the best what ifs. You really, truly, it all starts there, and then theme, and it's so personal, and it's original, and there's too much franchise out there. There's too much developing off of big IP out there, and I speak as a former Disney executive of that IP fatigue. You know, we've got to start infusing the world with new ideas. I especially feel that way with children's literature, you know, giving them the same superheroes over and over again. I think that's such a disservice, you know, to young children. You know, we're supposed to be fostering their imagination, and we're giving them the same old stories. So that doesn't seem to make sense. You know, you said something about Bangalore Detective and being original. I also love the themes and the messaging.
Yeah.
Really strong female character, male-female relationships and male toxicity. I mean, it covers all of that in such a smart way because it's entertaining.
And it's very contemporary.
Yes, and that's the best, for me, the best period are those that make us look at contemporary society, you know, so you think, well, that happened 200 years ago, but we're still experiencing that today, and it makes you think. And the best period pieces are thought-provoking because they make you reflect on contemporary society, right? So you can translate those issues to today.
Yeah. Pivoting one more time, and then we can also talk about AI and how the industry is changing. Then we'll open up to questions. But I just wanted to say that we're also working on another project which is completely different. It's not a period piece; it's contemporary, and it's a very unlikely arena. It's a sports romance.
Oh yeah.
And the romance is between a tennis player and a cricket player. And it's such a great book. It was published in 2018, and I thought, geez, like there's no Hollywood executive that's going to take, this Indian tennis prodigy who is like falling in love with the ace bowler in the Indian cricket team, right? And there was a lot of interest for this book from Bollywood. And then Reena and I were talking, and she loves commercial IP because it's high concept, it's big, it's easy, not easy, nothing is easy, but like slightly easier to sell than literary work. And I pitched her the book, and she said, oh my gosh, send it to me. She read it overnight, she called me, and she's like, Priya, I want this book.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because I never envisioned this book to be a series. I always thought feature, but I'm gonna hand it over to you to tell me, what happened there?
Well, I mean, it would make a great feature, but I do think it would be at a little bit of a disservice to go that route. Not that we couldn't figure it out, but look, first of all, I think their story is bigger than 90 minutes to an hour. I also think there are these rich secondary characters in terms of the family and their teammates and their coaches and their managers. I mean, I think of Ted Lasso, I think of Stick, I think like, what is that?
Nobody Wants This.
Nobody Wants This. Nobody Wants This was a big reason why, I was interested before Nobody Wants This.
Yeah, right? Beautiful.
But I think that those shows like that, I look for fresh story engines, fresh worlds. And then now there's a lot of sports shows that have come out. What's her name? Has one on Netflix.
Mindy is doing one with the basketball.
Okay, she's doing one, but then Goldie Hawn's daughter, what's her name? Kate Hudson.
Yes.
She has
Same one.
Running Point.
Yeah.
There you go. So Running Point. So there's a lot more sports TV shows, series out there, and I just think again, like, different world that you haven't seen, and what makes the book that we're talking about a little bit different is that it's coming from cricket and tennis, which you don't see dramatized a lot, and the South Asian angle of it.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's like a real story of Sania Mirza, the tennis and the cricketer.
But this is a totally different story, you're right?
Yeah.
That is not a happy story.
No, ours is happy. Yeah, no.
Ours is a true fairy tale, lovely romance.
Exactly. But it will go through a lot of challenging moments.
Yes, of course.
But I think but that's, yes, you're right. It is, that's part of the appeal to me is that cricket and tennis are very real things, and very watched sports, so you've got all those eyeballs and attention, and cricket's coming to the US next year, and so it's kind of zeitgeisty to start talking about this project and getting producers and getting studios interested. So from a commercial sensibility, that's where I came in. I personally adore romance stories. I watch every sappy Hallmark Christmas movie romance, Netflix, you name it. I've read the books, I have a stack this high. They're all those romance authors are right by my bedside. I've been reading Nora Ephron's autobiography. I truly enjoy this genre, and I think it's because when I think about what I want to develop in the world, it's not scary stories or sad stories. I can just pick up a newspaper for that or turn on CNN. I really think that it's important for us to bring hope and optimism into the world. I say that, but by no means do I want, as a former journalist, I say that with a caveat, I don't think we should skirt around the real life issues that exist. You can't put your head in the sand, but I do think you can make a choice in how you tell those stories. And I think hope is something that we're lacking in this world. And so the romance part of it was very interesting. And then I just want to make something with a South Asian lead in it. It's just in my, I just have to do it before I retire. And then I can retire. And then I'm done, and I don't care if I do another thing in life. But those were sort of the things that drive me. But before we get too far, I really want to ask you, because I don't know as much about your world. You work with these authors, from the very beginning. I get them, it's already IP. Lucky me. But you start from ground zero. And I'm wondering what that process is like, and I'm wondering, does adaptation ever figure, when does that come to mind,
Honestly, it comes to mind the moment I read a story.
Okay.
Or even a concept. So I can give you a little bit of background with this tennis cricket romance. It's called What's Good About Falling. And the writer, her name is Prajwal Hegde, and she is the tennis reporter for Times of India. She's been covering tennis for the last 35 years. She also covers cricket. She's truly in that sports world, and very unique, right? A woman from India, covering tennis. And so she and I were actually childhood friends. We went to school together, and then we lost touch. I got married, I came to the US, she got busy in life, and then I got a query in my inbox from Prajwal Hegde, and I'm like, what? And it's the Prajwal Hegde, and she loves romance, and she had sent me this romance proposal. And I called her up and I said, oh my gosh, we're so reacquainted, because we used to play tennis together. We used to play field hockey together in school. So it was so sweet. And I said, well, why did you send me this book? You should be writing a romance about a tennis star. She was like, no, that's my day job. I want to do something completely different. And I'm like, no, I will only agent you if you write a tennis romance. And she resisted me for 3 or 4 years. I kid you not. And she was like, please take this book. And I'm like, I'm not taking this book. I want you to write. And so she and I sat together and we developed this concept. And I said, well, let's get a cricket player in the mix. And let's set the book in Bangalore, because it's very hard to find stories from India that are set in Bangalore. Most stories are set in Bombay or Delhi or Calcutta, right? That's just how it is. And so she was like, yeah, South Indian power. So she did, and it took us 3 years to get that book, in place. And then I pitched it to a bunch of publishers. HarperCollins loved it, and then it got published. And I still think it's still so ahead of its time.
I agree.
It's a lovely, lovely book, and it's beautifully written. So that was one book that that was from concept. And Bangalore Detectives Club. When Hardy came to me, she had set it in a different time period, and I said, well, we need to move it to 1920s for 2 reasons. One is you can never have a book set in a time frame that has an epic world event. So she had said it in the 1940s when, as we know, that's the Indian freedom movement, right?
And World War II.
And World War II. And so whatever story you try to tell, that's going to get buried. It doesn't matter what the genre, it's crime, romance, no, right? Because that's just going to
That's smart.
overwhelm. And then I said, well, it's going to be set in Bangalore. Why don't we look at a very pivotal historical moment in Bangalore? And in 1920s, Sir Visvesvaraya started what's called the Century Club, because at that time there was another club called the Bus Club, which only allowed white British folks to be members, and no Indian was allowed in that bus club. And so Visvesvaraya said, well, I'm going to start a club for everybody. And so he started the club with 100 people, and that's why it's called Century Club. And I said, well, that's our hook. And the 1920s was just perfect because it's just before, and like the freedom movement to Bangalore, to South India came a little later, because we were just sort of insulated, and the 1920s was a beautiful time because we were still in that sort of, exotic India, but in a very nice way. And the Mysore Maharaja and the Maharani were very progressive, and they were doing all kinds of amazing things about, like, let's educate women, let's give them equal voices, let's get them into government, which was very unusual in India at that time. So anyway, so to answer your question, a lot of the books that I do take on have a little bit of that research, and also sometimes I think about, like, oh, this book is not there. Which writer can write this book? Because we need to see that in print.
Right.
It's not always about the Marvel empire.
No. Well, depends on who you ask.
Which is why
I
I'm a
agree.
pro-agent,
I agree.
but anyway.
Yeah. There's lots of room for other empires. No, I think that's really, and just to go back, like, Prajwal was also, when you asked me, like, why were you interested in What's Good About Falling? I mean, she's so impressive. She, when I talk about the book to people and I bring her up, Times of India's tennis editor, and her background, and then she's covered cricket, and she's covered hockey, and she's covered soccer/football, like, she brings such credibility to the project that it really does impress people. And she was a big reason why I wanted to, take this book out and then adapt it.
Fingers crossed, we're still in the inception stage,
Yes.
so we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe next year we'll have an update. All right, so one last thing before you guys can ask us questions. What's the future here with AI and?
Oh my gosh.
We love it and we hate it, right?
So AI doesn't scare. I don't know. I say this, and I'm very nice to my Chat GPT. Like, whenever I talk to it, it's please and thank you, and I make sure to compliment it, because when AI takes over the world, I want AI to be like, that Reena Singh? She's always really nice to me, and I think I spare her. So to say I'm not afraid of it is probably misleading. But I've always looked at technology as a tool, and I do think AI can be used to scale up development, to innovate, but I do think the ultimate creative decisions and editorial decisions remain with a human. And so you just have to be smart in how you're using AI. So, you can use it for research, however, you should double check, because it is there to, I've caught AI lying, and I get very, nicely upset with it. So you do have to, make sure you have secondary sources. It's a great writer's room to work with. It can be a great editor, to work with, or a copy editor to work with. Again, it's there to please you, so you still have to have your own critical eye. I know that when I use it to write, it will say to me, like, it'll give me some critical feedback. It'll give me some feedback where I'll say, you just took my voice out of this, or you really cut to the bone here, So you have to have your own confidence in your own creative voice and sensibility. I think, sometimes AI will say, would you like me to write the next part for you? Would you like me to brainstorm it? No, AI, I can do it. I'm the author. I'm the writer. I'm the, whether it's, you know, a blurb for a, you know, for the web page or for a proposal or for, you know, whatever. It really wants to take over, and you have to be the one that says, no, I'm the author, and you have to protect, you know, sort of your vision in that role. But, you know, I've also been using AI to create my own little micro dramas and podcasts and proof of concepts and trailers and things like that. And it's great. So I'm not afraid of it. I do think I don't want to speak from the actor's perspective because I'm not as versed in that area, but I understand their concerns. I think from a writing perspective, there's a lot that it can offer. You really have to be in the driver's seat with it. So, yeah.
And do you think it'll help, you know, because we, as in you and me, and there's some script writers here in the industry, and it's so hard because, you know, what's the data? The data is that every year there's about 50,000 scripts that are registered at the Writers Guild of America. But that's actually a very, you know, there's so many scripts that are not registered. And out of those 50,000 scripts, 0.1%, 50, I think, is actually option for a little bit of money, and that might go into what's called development. But even then, maybe one out of that 50 will eventually be made into a series or a film. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, do you think AI will help solve that problem of, like, how does a scriptwriter get visibility? Like, as you said, can they do a micro drama and then put it on the web and then that becomes popular?
I think you can reverse engineer, especially if you're not very well established, you know, and you have something that you really believe in. You know, maybe it doesn't go straight to adaptation in film and television. Maybe you think about podcasts. Maybe you think about micro dramas. Just getting your vision out there. I really believe in the user-generated content economy, and I do think that's you're going to see a lot more of that. And so I encourage people to do that, to create their own IP, and technology can certainly help scale that up. I do think the numbers can be scary sometimes. You know, there's that stat, which is sobering. There's also the fact that every year it's 500 to 1,000 books. We researched this. Yeah. According to GPT, 500 to 1,000 books get optioned a year by film and television. And then we did a little bit of a deeper dive and found out that actually is a number that's supported by film festivals and like Frankfurt and London and whatnot, and some other legitimate, you know, sources of information. But I think that, and then out of that 500 to 1,000, 100 to 150 actually make it to development, you know, and then out of there, maybe 50 make it to serious development, and then it just dwindles. And like, I find that very depressing. And I try not to live in those numbers, because if you just look at the stats, you're never going to want to do anything again. And I think put all of that aside and write what you love, what you know, what you love, maybe what you don't know you love, you know. But I just think you can't let those things stop you. I think people need to keep creating. People need to keep creating things from diverse points of view. Don't stop, and lean into technology as ways to get your content out there in different forms. You know, and I don't know. I just think the gatekeepers of the studios and the different platforms, you know, are a little scared about what they're seeing. I mean, YouTube's scared. Look what's happening with YouTube and Disney right now. It's, you know, a very interesting thing to observe. I don't know. There's more power now in the creator economy, and I hope that artists lean into it versus be, you know, scared of it.
So continue being a karma yogi.
Yes, Yes. Oh my God, she's here. She said it.
Yeah.
Earlier today.
To quote from Padma.
Yes. to
Let's
quote
all
from
become
her.
movies. Yes.
Because we went to your panel and I thought it was fantastic. You just have to do what you love and
Keep going.
keep going. Right.
On that note, I'm sure you guys have questions. Please have questions for us because, yes.
I'm not an AI expert.
I realize.
You need the mic because they're recording it, I think.
Thank you. So, in reference to your comments about AI, many authors probably in this festival have actually had their products used to train large language models. So how does that influence the product that comes out from creators who are using these chat GPTs and so forth to produce their own content? What does that mean for the individual creativity and their own IP?
Answer that, I'll have Reena answer that. So, there's this big case right now called the Anthropic case, which basically what happened was, they illegally scraped volumes and volumes of books, and it was done illegally without correct citation, and obviously not, going to the copyright holder and saying, we'll pay you for this. And of course, writers are going to be like, sure, pay me, I'm happy for you to use my copyright. So that's going on right now, and I think that is good. That's already sort of changing the illegal scraping of books and articles and journals, because now I'm sure you'll see in Google there's always an attribution, right? Like when you click on something, you'll see a little link and then it'll take you to, which is the right way to do it. And right now there are a couple of publishers, like I know HarperCollins, Bloomsbury, I've got emails from them saying, we want to use your writer's book we want to put it through a LLM model, we're going to give you X percentage royalties, do we have your permission? And some of my writers are like, no, you don't have my permission because you're offering me 15% net, no thank you. So, and it's also an issue when you have different territories. So if your book is published in the US and it's published in India and it's published in the UK in different editions, how's that going to pan out, right? Because the moment you have something on the net, it's all over. You can't restrict it. So anyway, so that's my, from the book end, but.
I think from the creative, the development process, I'm hoping that people, maybe they are, hoping they're not going to chat and saying, I want to write a book on this subject or this world or this place, give me some ideas. Because where do you think chat's getting it from? So that, I would just say, again, the humans have to use their own judgment and come up with their own, those what ifs, those premises should be personal, should be coming from with you, your observations of the world. I mean, that's why I love working with artists, is that, and this is why when I develop things, I really ask writers, what do you want to say to the world with this? And that's such an important thing. And so, sure, I guess there's some people that are swiping, ideas that others have already toiled for years and years to put out there and to write. And that's just I think that's the danger of AI, but I would encourage people to, tell stories that come from, their experiences and their observations of the world.
So I just want to make a point to what Reena said. It's interesting. So, because I represent film script writers too. And some of my script writers use AI to create their pitch docs. There's something called a lookbook, right? And now, because as we get more and more sophisticated in the AI world, a lot of writers use that. And then some of the writers are still old-fashioned, and they use the old traditional ways of getting a lookbook, which is you can go to the World Wide Web and, here's what the casting might look like, or whatever, right? And it's so interesting, I found film executives telling me, oh my gosh, I love this lookbook that is not AI generated. Because now a lot of the AI generated images are very, very similar. So there's no distinguishing characteristics. And we encountered that when we were doing the pitch book for What's Good About Falling, we were trying to get the Indian cricket team in the Wimbledon, and they all had beards, and we were like,
They all look the same.
they all look the
It
same.
was the same person, like, multiplied.
Yeah.
And I really had to work to.
I'm like, Reena. She's like, oh gosh, yeah, right.
You have to get very specific with the art direction, And like
Yeah.
that was just for that's not going to be seen by the world. That's just, promotion,
Yes.
like our internal to get people excited about coming aboard and, partnering. So again, like using AI smartly and respectfully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the human intelligence wins, because you have to be, you have to have discretion, right? And you have to have the ability to doubt and question, which AI will never have, in my opinion. So, okay, next.
Actually, this question is both to Priya and Reena, because I guess both of you want to promote work that represents diversity, especially South. And my question is really around this whole issue of, South Asian representation. Right now, for many of us in this room, our families are on probably their second or third generation here. Some of us also probably have, I think most of us here, I would think, has at least one friend or acquaintance who's married to a non-South Asian. So my question is who represents that today? Like, let's just say somebody was doing a documentary on Kamala Harris versus Sundar Pichai. Is Kamala Harris's as equally as much of a South Asian story as Sundar Pichai's?
Yes.
A second part is, let's just say both my nephews are half Indian and half white, Vikram and Jeevan, and maybe one day they want to be screenwriters or writers and write about the South Asian American experience. Will my mixed race nephews be seen as South Asian American writers just as equally as someone who's fully South Asian? So that's my question. Because I know, for example, Mindy Kaling has gotten a lot of flack for not being South Asian enough. So
I think that's silly.
I'd love to hear your perspective on what I have to say.
I think, the problem is that, so Mindy has her perspective, but we expect her to hold up all the perspectives, that are South Asian, and no, we just need more South Asian creators out there with their different perspectives, So I actually am very grateful for what she's done, but I think Mindy herself would say, I can't do it all, and yet it's expected to. So I think that's, what I'll say about her. I think there's so many perspectives. What I want to do, I don't really, I mean, this may sound vapid, but I know like entertainment is there to inform and educate, but I really want to create entertainment that entertains, and through that entertainment informs and educates. I look to things like beef. That's the type of South Asian content I want to create, like where it just is. It doesn't have to be explained, I also really believe in multi-generational stories. And I think that there are, I come from a family where my parents were immigrants. I was born here. Now my niece is, she's born here and she's got a different perspective. And some of them overlap and some of them are very different. My sister's married to a man who's half Indian and half white. My brother is married to a white woman. Like, we have a very diverse, family. So I love it when we're not pointing like, this is South Asian. No, like, let's do things that just are. We're an organic part of society, And so I really want the things that I work on to feel that way, I don't want to make an after school special. Yeah. No offense.
So, I'm sort of in agreement with what Reena's saying, and I think, for me, like, I see the difference between UK and US productions, and I think, I honestly think UK has gotten it right in many ways, because they don't typecast non-white, people in their in their specific little region, right? Because the way they see it, they're all Britishers. And they're all talking the same, they're all acting the same. And one of the things that I actually initially was Kal Penn's movie, Harry and Kumar Go to White Castle. Yeah. Like, to me, that is your perfect example of, like, yeah, they're not white, but they're living in America. They're living that experience that everybody sort of can experience, right? And it's a fantastic film, and that was made how many years ago, right? So yeah, I'm with her. Like I have a little bit more of a global view. I'm like, let people tell the stories that they're supposed to tell. By the way, I represent white men writing novels about non-white women, and it's hugely problematic in today's sort of, I hate to use the word woke, but woke publishing. I am being rejected all the time because they're like, how dare this white man write about a Japanese sleuth? Because you know what, he's a phenomenal writer, and he's lived in Japan for 30 years, and he writes beautifully. And so why shouldn't he be given a chance? You know, I'm not saying it's going to be at the behest of a Japanese woman writing it. No, give the Japanese woman a chance too if she's a good writer, right? The same with whatever ethnicity. And I think I'm the agent in the minority camp that still does that.
I think it's interesting what you said about the UK. There was a series I just watched, Starstruck. Yeah, with Nikesh Patel. And basically, for those of you who didn't see it, it's a story of average, young woman who goes out New Year's Eve, gets really drunk, and ends up hooking up with a movie star. But the movie star happens to be a South Asian male. And in the show, he isn't a Bollywood actor. He's actually a proper British actor who works in very commercial, productions, and even I think has a superhero franchise, if I'm not mistaken. And it just is. It's not, there's no explaining or talking about he just is a big movie star, and that's just how they cast it. So I think I look at that and I wonder why there isn't more of that. And that doesn't mean that you can't have cultural specificity, but let's not stereotype and over-explain it,
Thanks for the questions. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
We're also on time, so if you want to continue this, then maybe we can also do it outside. And if people want to come in for the other ones here, then we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So let me just make one postscript comment. I'm very fond of Priya and Reena, and their heart and head is in the right place. And why did we? My dream is that at IIC we don't just bring creators, but that we actually create a community that incubates, supports creators. Because it's not sufficient to write a good book, it's not sufficient to create a movie. There is enormous challenges awaiting a creator beyond that. So our hope is over time, within our community, we have capital, we have creators, we begin to gel together, and we become an incubating platform. And I have told the board that by June of next year, we have to incubate our very first, hopefully, movie product. And so I've tasked Priya and Reena, I said, okay, you're going to be our guide into that world, and we'll all collaborate, and hopefully New York can become the incubation center of creative Indo-American stories. And I think the opportunity is huge. You're going to be our guides, and we are going to be the home. So if you have stories, if you have projects, bring them to us. And this is not just about a book event. This is about creating a community that incubates. Thank you, Priya. Thank you.